My name's Tyler Reeves. I'm 36 years old. I work as a senior analyst at Bradley and Company Capital, and for the past 4 years, I've been living with the woman I thought I was going to marry, Elena Moore. She's 33, an interior designer who freelances mostly from home, which made it easy to fall into the rhythm of domestic life together. Sunday brunches, HGTV on low volume in the background while she sketches floor plans, the kind of routines that make you think, yeah, this is it. This is how it's supposed to be. At least that's what I believed. We lived in a townhouse on the edge of Bennett, Colorado. Quiet, suburban, where people wave when they pass your mailbox. We had a view of the foothills from our bedroom window and a standing Sunday tradition of grocery shopping together like an old married couple. I thought we were solid, safe, headed somewhere. The day everything started unraveling didn't announce itself like a thunderclap. It was a Wednesday, mid-April, bright sky, birds chirping like a Disney cartoon. If anything, it was too normal, and that's part of what makes it harder to swallow now. I woke up at 5:30, like usual. Elena was still asleep, her arm draped over my chest, mouth slightly open in that peaceful way she always had when she was truly out. I kissed her forehead gently before slipping out of bed, careful not to wake her. I'd gotten into this habit of morning runs a couple years back. Just something to clear my head before the stress of client reports and portfolio meetings set in. That day, I ran my usual loop, down Willow Creek Trail, past the old community garden, loop around Maple Ridge Elementary, and back, about 4.2 miles. It was chilly but not freezing. Spring in Colorado teases you like that. Sun on your face, but still just cold enough to keep your hands in fists. On the way back, I stopped at Marlowe's Cafe, the one just 3 blocks from our place. It's Elena's favorite. She swears they make the best almond milk flat white in town, even though I can never taste the difference. I ordered her usual. They had it ready with her name scribbled on the lid by the time I reached the counter. "Surprising her today?" the barista asked. "Trying to." I smiled, sliding a tip into the jar. Felt good, small things like that. The normal things. I took a deep breath outside the cafe, appreciating the moment. If you had told me this was going to be the moment my life cracked open, I would have laughed. By the time I got back to the house, it was around 6:45 a.m. The front door was still locked. She probably wasn't expecting me back so early. I stepped inside as quietly as I could, not because I was sneaking around, but because it felt like the respectful thing. She wasn't a morning person, never had been. I figured she might still be asleep. Maybe I'd sneak in, leave her coffee on the nightstand, and hop in the shower. But then I heard her voice. It was faint, muffled by the bedroom walls, but unmistakably hers. She wasn't asleep. At first I thought she might be on a call with a client, or maybe chatting with her sister. But I stopped mid-step in the hallway when I heard the words, soft, careful, and asterisk mate. "Last night was wild. I can still smell you." Then silence. A quiet click followed, the unmistakable sound of a call ending. I stood there frozen for a few seconds. Not angry, not shocked, just suspended. Like my brain hadn't quite registered what my ears had just delivered. I felt something cold ripple across my skin, like a pressure drop before a storm. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. That softness in her voice, almost shy, almost like she was remembering something she didn't want to forget. I stood still in the hallway a little longer than I should have, wondering what to do. Confront her? Pretend I didn't hear it? Laugh it off and wait for her to slip up again? I made a decision right then. I'd play it cool. I walked toward the bedroom, steadying my face like I had just come back from a jog without hearing a damn thing. She was sitting on the bed in her robe, legs crossed, phone beside her on the nightstand. She didn't flinch when she saw me, didn't look guilty, just smiled casually, like nothing had happened. "Hey," she said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Back already?" I lifted the coffee cup. "Brought you this. Almond milk flat, no sugar." She smiled, walked over to me, and gave me a soft kiss on the cheek. "You're the best." I hesitated only a second. "Who were you talking to?" Her face didn't even twitch. "Jenna," she replied casually. picking up the coffee and sipping. She's spiraling about her bachelorette party. She thinks the dresses we picked make her look like a piñata. Her laugh was light, unbothered. I nodded, but inside, something twisted. Jenna was supposed to be in Vermont right now, off-grid, doing some kind of forest retreat with no reception. She'd mentioned it at dinner on Sunday. No screens, no phones, just nature, she had said, holding up her hand like she was making a vow. But I didn't call her out. Not then. Her phone sat on the nightstand, screen dark. I noticed the lock screen had no call history, she had already cleared it. I wanted to ask more questions, but I couldn't. I just smiled and said, tell her she's nuts. She'll look amazing no matter what. I already did, Elena said, walking toward the bathroom with her coffee in hand. But you know how she is. I stood there alone in the bedroom, staring at the spot where her phone had been. That's when I felt it, the shift. Like gravity had changed. Like something that had always held steady was now slightly tilted. Everything looked the same, the framed photo on the wall from our trip to Tahoe, the pile of laundry she always meant to fold, her slippers by the bed, but none of it felt familiar anymore. I went into the guest bathroom and took a long, quiet shower. The water was warm, but I felt cold the entire time. I replayed the moment over and over again, her voice, the way she spoke, the pause before hanging up. And then the lie, delivered so cleanly it made me doubt my own hearing. Was I overreacting? Was it possible I'd misunderstood? But I couldn't shake it. Jenna was off the grid. Her voice had been too tender. And Elena had never once cleared her call log before. She wasn't that type. I didn't confront her. Not that day. I just went through the motions, got dressed, kissed her goodbye, and headed to work with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. But inside me, something had changed. A string had snapped. And once it does, you start noticing everything that hangs on it. After that morning, something shifted in the way I looked at Elena and at everything, really. It was like someone had taken a thin layer of trust and peeled it back without warning, exposing this raw, uneasy surface underneath. I didn't say anything to her that day. Or the next. But my mind wouldn't shut off. Every word, every glance, every small behavior, suddenly they all felt like data points, and I couldn't stop collecting them. It wasn't just the call. It was what came after. That Saturday, I noticed she'd left her engagement ring in the bathroom again. It was the third time that month. She used to wear it like a badge. Loved how the diamond caught the light when she reached for things. But lately, it was getting in the way while I was working, or I didn't want to mess it up while I was doing dishes. Fair enough, once or twice. But now it was becoming a pattern. A quiet, deliberate removal of evidence. And then there was her laptop. She used to work on it openly, sometimes even sitting next to me while we both worked on Sunday afternoons. But now, if I so much as entered the room while she had it open, she'd snap it shut like a guilty teenager. Once, I caught her doing just that, and she laughed nervously and said, "Oops, didn't want you to see the hideous dining table mock-up I was working on." I smiled, nodded, played along. But I started keeping track. She began leaving for yoga every Sunday morning. At first, I encouraged it. I figured it was good for her, time to recharge, clear her head. She said the class started at 9 o'clock and ended by 10:30. But she wouldn't get home until afternoon. Once, she came back with her eyeliner smudged under her eyes, cheeks flushed, and a faint scent of a cologne I didn't recognize clinging to her sweater. Traffic was crazy, she said. I stopped for a smoothie. It didn't add up. Then it wasn't the kind of town where traffic got crazy. Not on a Sunday. Not near the yoga studio. I noticed something else too. She had become attentive. Too attentive. It was the kind of overcorrection that made my skin itch. One morning, she surprised me with lunch delivered to my office, my exact Chipotle order, even remembered the extra guac. There were flowers waiting for me at home the next day with a card that said, "Just because." She even baked cookies one night, which I had seen her do exactly never in 4 years together. It wasn't just out of character, it was strategic. Like she was trying to stay one step ahead of a conversation I hadn't even started yet. And then I saw the bracelet. It was a small, silver cuff she hadn't worn before. I noticed it when she was doing dishes one night, sleeves pushed up. On the inside, just beneath her wrist, was an engraving. "Breathe, always see." I froze. "New bracelet?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She glanced at it and smiled. "Oh yeah, from Clara. Just a little pick-me-up gift she mailed me. We used to say that in college when we were stressed." "Clara?" Clara lived in Arizona. Clara, to my knowledge, hadn't spoken to Elena in over a year. Their friendship had fizzled out sometime after our engagement. I remember Elena saying something like, "We just kind of drifted." She's busy with her fiancé, I guess. And now she was mailing engraved bracelets across state lines? I didn't call her on it, not directly. But the next morning, I looked up Clara's Instagram. She hadn't posted anything since January. Nothing about sending gifts. Nothing about reconnecting. And her latest post was a photo with a different quote entirely. Let go or be dragged. That was the moment I knew. There was a C. But it wasn't Clara. I started documenting everything after that. Quietly. Strategically. It felt dirty, **ting our shared credit card statements, copying her mileage logs when I borrowed the car, tracking her Starbucks rewards redemptions. But I needed proof. I needed data. I'm a numbers guy after all. And the numbers? They started talking. There were several large payments over the past 2 months to someone named Chris Ralston. They weren't for furniture or consultation hours. These were transfers through Venmo and Zelle, sometimes labeled vaguely, "Thanks again," or just a smiley face. One was labeled room. Another just said, "Perfect weekend." I didn't know a Chris Ralston. Neither did Elena, at least she'd never mentioned him. The thing about betrayal is it never arrives all at once. It seeps in quietly at first. One detail here, a missed cue there. Then it compounds like interest. You look back and realize the signs were always there. You just didn't want to do the math. One Thursday night, we were curled up on the couch watching The Crown. She leaned into me, head on my shoulder, blanket over our legs. She reached for my hand under the throw and gave it a squeeze. I squeezed back, but I didn't feel anything. Not warmth, not safety, not even love. I felt distance, and her perfume. And the echo of last night was wild. I can still smell you. That phrase haunted me. It popped into my head during the most mundane parts of my day, while brushing my teeth, while waiting at the stoplight on South Ridgeway, while heating up leftovers in the microwave. She had said it so easily, so confidently, like someone who'd said things like that before. One night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake beside her, listening to her steady breathing, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced through every interaction we'd had over the past few months. The canceled dinners, the extra long showers, the way she'd turn her phone over when it buzzed, the new lingerie she wore one random Tuesday, then never again. She hadn't been acting like someone who wanted to cheat. She'd been acting like someone already cheating, trying to keep up the illusion. I thought about confronting her, about laying out everything I'd gathered, call logs, bank records, the bracelet. But I wasn't ready yet. I didn't want denials. I wanted confirmation, undeniable, unshakable truth. So I made a decision. I installed a car tracking app on her phone, not maliciously. I just needed to know. I told myself I wouldn't use it unless I had reason to. But I had plenty of reasons already, didn't I? And just like that, the rest of my life started bending around a new reality. I stopped thinking about wedding dates. I stopped noticing fabric samples for the sofa we were going to reupholster together. I stopped imagining her as my wife. Instead, I started watching, listening, waiting, because the storm wasn't just coming anymore. It was building, and I was finally beginning to see the shape of it. It happened on a Friday. I remember because it was supposed to be Jenna's birthday weekend. Elena had mentioned earlier in the week that she was staying over at Jenna's place Friday night to help set up for the party on Saturday. She said it like it was no big deal, like I should have expected it. But by then, I was past the point of giving her the benefit of the doubt. Still, I nodded, kissed her on the forehead, and said, "Tell Jenna I said happy birthday." And then, after she left with her overnight bag and a bottle of sparkling rose, I picked up my phone and opened the car tracking app one had quietly installed the week before. I watched the little dot on the map. Not Jenna's neighborhood. Not even close. She drove straight across town, past the suburbs, through downtown, and out toward the edge of Bennett. 20 minutes later, her car stopped outside a place I recognized immediately. The Amberleaf Hotel. It was a luxury boutique spot perched on the edge of the city, wrapped in glass and steel, built for quiet discretion and soft landings. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a business trip. It wasn't Jenna. It was him. Whoever he was. I didn't hesitate. I walked into the bedroom closet, pulled on a dark button-down shirt and jeans, slipped my watch on, took the ring box from the safe where it had been tucked away since the day I proposed. It was still there, velvet pristine, the diamond sitting clean and sharp. My pulse was steady, weirdly calm, almost mechanical. On the drive to the hotel, I didn't blast music or scream into the steering wheel. I didn't call her. I didn't cry. I just drove in silence, letting the truth settle in like cold water around my bones. I parked across the street and walked in through the bar entrance, not the lobby. The place was dimly lit, upscale, with leather booths and a long marble bar under amber pendant lights. I took a seat near the elevator banks. Good vantage point, clear line of sight. A bartender wandered over. Late 20s, probably used to weird requests. "Hey," I said, sliding him a $50 and placing the ring box on the bar. "I need a favor." He raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Good man. When a woman with long brown hair in a red dress comes out of that elevator, hand her this. Just say, "From Tyler." He knows. He gave a short nod and tucked the box behind the bar. Then I waited. I nursed a whiskey for 20 minutes, maybe 30. People came and went. Laughter, chatter, music humming low in the background. My eyes never left the elevator. Then ding. The doors opened, and there she was, Elena, wearing a tight crimson dress I'd never seen before, hair done in soft waves, heels clicking on the tile. She was laughing at his joke, holding his hand. Chris. I didn't know his name yet, but I'd seen his face. The tattoos on his forearm were unmistakable. Some tribal pattern with roses mixed in. He was tall, built like he worked out for a living. Beard, messy dark hair, sharp jawline. A walking cliché if I'm honest. The kind of guy who knew exactly what he looked like and how to use it. They didn't notice me. They were too busy smiling. Then the bartender stepped in. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, walking up to them casually. "Someone left this for you." He placed the box in her hand. She blinked, confused, and opened it. I watched her face. Everything stopped. The moment she saw the ring, the entire world around her seemed to dissolve. Her smile vanished. Her expression froze. Pale. Blank. The blood drained from her face like someone had flipped a switch. The man beside her looked down at the box, then at her. "What is this?" he asked, confused. She stammered. I don't know." He stepped back slightly. "Who's Tyler?" She looked up then, eyes scanning the bar, and found me. Our eyes locked, and for a second it was just silence between us. Pure, crystal clear silence. She started toward me, dropping his hand like it was burning her. "Tyler," she said, voice cracking. "Please wait. It's not." I stood, didn't raise my voice, didn't throw a scene. I just looked at her, then walked past without a word. Her heels clicked after me. "Tyler, wait, please. I can explain." But I didn't stop. I didn't turn. I just kept walking, straight out the door and into the night air. Outside, I finally exhaled. Not relief, not satisfaction, just reality. She was everything I thought I wanted. And in one moment, I realized she was something else entirely. I got in my car and sat there, hands on the steering wheel, watching her figure through the glass as she stood frozen inside the bar, still clutching the ring box like it might bite her. She didn't follow me out. He didn't either. I drove home. The entire ride was a blur. I passed the streets we used to walk together, the corner cafe where we had our first real fight, the park where I almost proposed before chickening out and waiting 2 more weeks. Everything had been leading to this moment. Back home, I didn't throw things. I didn't cry. I sat on the edge of our bed, no, my bed now, and stared at the framed photo of us on the nightstand. Cabo 2 summers ago. She was in that blue bikini she loved. I looked happy. We both did. I picked up the frame, turned it face down. Then I opened my laptop, logged into our bank accounts, froze the joint credit card, changed the passwords on anything with my name on it. I wasn't just walking away from her. I was cutting her out. Then I opened a new email window. To Thomas Moore. Subject: urgent matter concerning Elena. I kept it brief, professional. Just the facts. Her father and I had worked together on a few investment ventures. He respected me, trusted me. I wasn't trying to ruin her reputation, but I wasn't protecting it either. His reply came in under 2 hours. Let's meet. Discreetly. You have my number. I leaned back in my chair. She wasn't just losing a fiancé. She was about to learn what it meant to lose trust. Not just mine, but his. The next morning, I sat in the lobby of a high-rise in North Bennett, waiting for the elevator that would take me to the top floor. Thomas More's office. Elena's father wasn't just wealthy. He was capital, old school, sharp-suited, and the kind of man who didn't blink unless it served a purpose. When I first met him, I was int*mid-ated. Then I earned his trust. And eventually, I earned something like his respect. We'd collaborated on 2 projects. Quiet, clean deals that had helped expand his firm's reach while giving me leverage within my own. I didn't just lose a fiancé when Elena betrayed me. I risked losing alliances I'd worked years to build. But I wasn't going there to plead for sympathy. I had something else in mind. The elevator opened with a soft ding, and a receptionist with a headset motioned me through. Thomas was already waiting, standing at the far end of his corner office, framed by glass and early morning skyline. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. He didn't shake my hand, just nodded. "Tyler." "Mr. Moore," I said, stepping in. "Have a seat." He gestured to one of the leather chairs across from his desk. I didn't ask questions. I sat. My palms were dry, my voice steady. I'd rehearsed everything in the car, stripped the emotion out. This wasn't about catharsis. It was about positioning. "I assume you've seen the email," I said. "I have." He opened a drawer and pulled out a folder thick, bound in navy cardstock. My name was written on the label. "Elena's situation puts us in a difficult position," he said. "I want to hear it from you." So I told him. Not every tear or suspicion. Just the facts. The bracelet, the tracking app, the payments to Chris Ralston, the night at the Amberleaf. I didn't embellish. I didn't smear her. I just handed him the truth in clean, colorless sentences. When I finished, he said nothing for a while. Just flipped through the folder, where I assumed he had already compiled his own notes. "Elena has always had a weakness for attention," he said finally, as if the word itself tasted sour. "I warned her once. I won't do it again." There was no anger in his voice, just finality. He stood and crossed the room to a cabinet, where he poured 2 fingers of scotch into a crystal glass and handed it to me. Mid-morning. No hesitation. "I have a proposition," I said. "Something clean. Something that doesn't put your family's name through the press." He raised an eyebrow but didn't interrupt. "I walk away from your daughter's life," I said, "but I'd like to maintain business ties. Not out of sentiment. I've started forming something, an investment platform built on a stricter code. Smaller, targeted firms. Transparent ethics. No gray zones." I slid a thin folder across the table. Inside, a rough prospectus titled Reeves Ethical Capital. He flipped through it in silence. "Interesting timing," he said, not looking up. "Launching something new days after a breakup." "This isn't reactionary," I replied. "I've been drafting the framework for months. Elena wasn't supposed to know. It started as a passion project. Now it feels like the right direction." He closed the folder. "Let me guess. You want my blessing. Maybe a little capital. Maybe access to a few quiet names. I want support, not favors. And I'm not looking for a job in your house. I'm looking for alignment." He studied me for a long moment. His eyes were hard, calculating. Then he nodded. "You'll have it. But I expect results. And I expect discretion. No memoirs. No leaked texts. No strategic press interviews." "Of course." He walked back around the desk, sat down, and placed both hands flat on the surface. "Make it clean," he said again, echoing the line from his email. "But no mercy." Those 4 words stuck with me. Later that day, I started the formal process. I moved half my liquid assets into a holding account and began reaching out to the first wave of potential backers. Most were small players, young firms burned by flash and fade VC tactics, founders who'd walked away from unethical funding rounds. The kinds of people who didn't wear suits to work but cared deeply about what they were building. Within 72 hours, I had secured 3 verbal commitments and enough preliminary capital to file paperwork. Elena had no idea. We hadn't spoken since that night. No texts, no calls, not even a half-hearted apology. But I knew it was coming. It arrived the following week. An email. No subject line. Just 2 lines of text. I'm sorry. I ruined everything. I know you won't answer. I just had to say it. I stared at it for a long time. Then I archived it without replying. There was nothing left to say. 3 days later, she sent another message. Longer this time. Titled, "Just please read." I didn't need her version of the story. I'd already heard the truth. In her voice. In her lies. In the weight of a ring box passed across a marble bar. Instead, I kept moving. I met with an attorney to unwind our shared accounts. Quietly sold off the vacation we'd planned in June. Returned the wedding deposits under her name. No drama. No demands. Just clean exits. It wasn't revenge. It was hygiene. I boxed up her things while listening to Miles Davis on vinyl. Folded her sweaters neatly. Placed the jewelry she left behind into padded envelopes. I even left her a note on top of the box that said, "Let me know where to send this." Nothing more. That night, I took a walk through the neighborhood. I passed the bench where we used to sit after dinner. The one she joked was ours. It looked smaller now. Or maybe I was just finally seeing it clearly. In the coming weeks, I'd draft a mission statement. I'd build a board. I'd sign my first 2 ethical investment partners. I'd step into a version of myself that felt clearer, sharper. Someone I hadn't met yet, but already respected. Elena was no longer part of the narrative. She was the catalyst, not the conclusion. There's a strange silence that follows a clean break. Not relief exactly, not peace. More like a vacuum where the noise used to be. The texts, the excuses, the constant, low-grade anxiety humming under every conversation. After Elena and I went dark, after the email I never answered and the boxes I packed, I felt that silence settle over everything. It wasn't comfortable, but it was necessary. I didn't tell many people what happened. I didn't want to become a cautionary tale or a topic at someone's brunch table. I let the story fade naturally. When friends asked why the engagement was called off, I gave the same line. We realized we wanted different things, which wasn't a lie. She wanted to pretend nothing was happening. I wanted honesty. Turns out, those are pretty different things. At work, I shifted into autopilot while quietly laying the foundation for Reeves' ethical capital. No fanfare, no launch party. I spent late nights building pitch decks, refining the ethics charter, and calling friends from business school who'd always felt the traditional investment model was missing something. Within a month, I had an office small, clean, and sunlit. Just me and a whiteboard, a rented desk, and a vision. One of the early partners, a founder named Lacey whose startup produced sustainable home materials, told me during our first meeting, "You're not like the others. You're not selling hope, you're rebuilding it." That stuck with me. My days were full. My nights were quiet. And somewhere in between, I felt like I was starting to come back to myself. Then came the conference. It was a regional business forum in Denver, half networking event, half panel discussion. I wasn't planning to go, but one of my new clients invited me to sit in on a pitch about clean tech investments. I figured why not? The worst that could happen was a bad buffet and a room full of buzzwords. But then, in a quiet moment between speakers, I heard a voice behind me. Tyler Reeves. I turned, and there she was, Hannah Moore, Elena's younger sister. I hadn't seen her in almost a year. The last time had been at a fundraiser gala where Elena insisted we keep it low-key, which meant pretending I didn't exist while she mingled with half the room. But Hannah had been different. That night, she found me at the bar and said, "You're too patient for her." Like it was an inside joke no one else was in on. Now here she was again. She wore a smart, tailored blazer, her hair pulled back in a clean bun. Her posture was confident, poised in a way that made you think she'd probably already read every name tag in the room. "Hannah," I said, standing a little straighter. Wow, wasn't expecting to see you here. She smiled politely, eyes scanning mine like she was reading the room before making her next move. I'm presenting on a panel this afternoon, she said. Carbon-neutral logistics. S**XY stuff. I laughed. I'll try to contain my excitement. There was a pause, brief but charged. She looked down at the name badge clipped to her coat. I heard about you and Elena, she said finally. My jaw tightened. I figured you might. I just want you to know, she continued, her voice calm. I wasn't surprised. Not really. And I'm sorry you went through that. You deserved better. I wasn't sure how to respond. I wasn't used to anyone outside my own head validating what happened. Thanks, I said, meaning it. We stood there a moment longer before she broke the silence again. Can I buy you a coffee later? No awkward family gossip. Just two business people making polite conversation. I smiled, surprised at how easy that felt. Sure, I'd like that. We met in the hotel cafe that afternoon. No pressure. No subtext. Just two professionals talking about market shifts, climate tech, and the absolute circus that is startup funding. Hannah was sharp. She didn't talk to impress. She asked the kind of questions that showed she actually listened. The longer we talked, the more I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Steady. She didn't dodge hard truths. When I joked about losing half my wedding deposits, she rolled her eyes and said, "That sounds like Elena. Dramatic first, accountable never." I laughed loud, real. I forgot what that felt like. We kept in touch after the conference. A few emails turned into a lunch meeting. A lunch meeting turned into drinks after work. Slowly, a rhythm began to form. One day, she sent me a list of 5 small environmental startups she thought might align with my investment values. No pressure, she wrote. Just options. You deserve good options. 3 of those companies are now under the Reeves Ethical Capital umbrella. It wasn't romantic, not at first. It was easier than that. Simpler. I wasn't looking for someone to fill the space Elena left behind. That space wasn't a wound anymore, it was just empty. Quiet. But Hannah didn't try to fix it. She just brought her own calm into it. One night in late July, we were walking out of a client dinner together. The air was warm, the kind of dry heat that made the sidewalks hum. She rubbed her arms and let out a small shiver. Without thinking, I took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She looked at me, eyes steady, soft, and smiled. Thank you, she said. Then, after a beat, and not for what you think. I didn't ask what she meant. I think I already knew. It was sometime in September when I realized something had changed, not just around me, but in me. Reeves Ethical Capital was gaining traction. We'd signed 2 additional clients in the renewable tech space, and referrals kept coming in from unexpected places. One of those places? Hannah. We hadn't labeled anything yet. There was no grand confession, no sweeping gestures. Just more dinners, longer walks, and conversations that didn't feel like landmines. She asked me questions no one else did. She challenged me. She called me out when I defaulted to guarded, and I didn't mind it. One night, we stayed late at the office after a meeting with a water sanitation startup. We were both tired, papers everywhere. She laughed at something I said, that open, unfiltered laugh you only hear from people who aren't trying to impress anyone. As we packed up, I handed her a folder she'd left on my desk. Thanks, Reeves, she said with a small smirk, using my last name like it was a game. I raised an eyebrow. You say it like it's my first name. She shrugged, grinning. Maybe it suits you better now. That night, as I walked her to her car, I said something I hadn't meant to say out loud. This feels different. She didn't ask what this meant. She just nodded and said, that's because it is. 6 months passed. Reeves Ethical Capital wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. We'd secured funding from one of Thomas More's quieter syndicates, and our reputation for conscious returns was making waves in the investment world. No splashy headlines. Just steady wins. At our firm's half-year celebration held on the rooftop of a converted factory we now used as workspace, Thomas showed up in a navy suit and sunglasses. He didn't smile much, but he shook my hand firmly. I made the right call, he said simply. Just remember who stood beside you when it counted. I haven't forgotten, I said. Later that evening, I found Hannah by the edge of the balcony, nursing a drink, hair loose for once. She looked peaceful. Strong. I pulled